All right, welcome back. We have some breaking news just in to CNN. We have obtained letters from the counsel to former special counsel Jack Smith. He is saying that he is willing to testify before the House and Senate Judiciary Committees if his testimony can be public. Joining me now in the arena to discuss is Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, who does sit on the Judiciary Committee in question. Senator, thank you very much for being here. I think I've got a copy of this letter waiting in the wings. Thank you, sir. I realize I'm sort of probably handing this to you as we are getting it in here, but he writes to Chuck Grassley, who of course is the chairman, and he says that Grassley has not reached out to us to discuss the matter, but that he feels compelled to correct inaccurate assertions made by Grassley and others concerning the issuance of a grand jury subpoena for toll records for senators, 8 senators, and 1 member of the House of Representatives. So this is clearly about the January 6th inquiry where his office had investigated members of Congress that apparently were speaking with the President of the United States. This, of course, this letter from his law firm Covington about Jack Smith. So I realize you're just learning about this for the first time. So
just this minute. So,
but what does it tell you that he's willing potentially to testify, but that he does say that he wants it to be in public?
So I understand why anyone in his situation would want to testify in open, in the public, so that it can't be mischaracterized or misused. I assume what he's referring to was the concerning allegations that he had been getting data about different senators' phone calls on and around January 6th.
Let me pause you right there, because this paragraph here I think underscores what you're saying. The letter says here, quote, "A number of people have falsely stated that Mr. Smith, quote, tapped senators' phones, quote, spied on their communications, or, quote, surveilled their conversations. As you know, toll records contain merely telephonic routing information collected after the calls have taken place, identifying ingoing, outgoing call numbers, times of the calls, and their duration." He say that wiretapping, by contrast, is not historical. It involves intercepting communications in real time. Do you have any concerns about how he went about his investigation in this regard, looking for toll records for members of Congress?
I mean, I don't know the details, but I have to assume that he followed an appropriate process for getting warrants. Getting a warrant to get the metadata, the who called who when, about senators should be particularly closely examined, and he's got a higher standard he's got to meet in terms of the justification of that. But I'll remind you, January 6th was an organized effort to overturn a federal election, and there was a riot in the Capitol. So given that that was the subject he was investigating, he may be able to explain and justify this in testimony in front of the Judiciary Committee. I'm encouraged to hear he's going to come testify. That way we can avoid mischaracterization of his investigation and what happened. But I would agree that this is a subject well worth the committee hearing about.
Do you think that Chairman Grassley will be open to public testimony from Jack Smith as opposed to private testimony?
He should be.
Can we talk big picture about this in the sense of, and I take your point, obviously it was at the Capitol complex on January 6th. It's a unique event in the history of our nation. However, how would you feel if there were a Republican president, special counsel appointed, and it was Democratic senators who'd had their phone records looked at?
In the context of an attempt to mobilize and send at the Capitol an armed crowd to overthrow an election, I could understand it under certain circumstances if there were credible allegations that those senators had been involved in trying to mobilize that crowd. That's a very rare circumstance. To your point, there have only ever been a few attacks on the U.S. Capitol in the entire history of our country, mostly by foreign forces like the British, who burned it down in the War of 1812. So this is a very unusual circumstance. Surveillance of senators should be exceptionally rare and subject to a fairly high standard of review.
You, of course, I'm sure have seen that Jack Smith has been speaking more in public in recent weeks to essentially defend people inside the Justice Department, people that he worked with against some of the changes that the Trump administration has made. What is your view of his decision to step out in public like that? Do you think he's doing the right thing?
Well, what I think he's doing is defending both his record as a prosecutor and advocating for those who've been summarily dismissed for simply doing their job as it was assigned to them at the time. In her confirmation hearing before the Judiciary Committee in January of this year, Attorney General Pam Bondi said she wouldn't be doing that. She wouldn't be looking backward. She wouldn't be carrying out retribution. And yet there's a whole series of instances of both Department of Justice employees and FBI agents being dismissed for participating, not for doing anything inappropriate, but for simply carrying out their instructions to investigate or carry forward a prosecution. So I do think it's understandable why he feels like, in order to defend both his reputation, but more importantly, the independence of the Department of Justice, that he's giving his side of the story.
Fair enough. All right, I do want to ask you about, originally we had planned to start on the demolition of the East Wing of the White House, which of course the pictures have been very striking. I wondered, have you spoken with Dr. Biden, former First Lady Dr. Biden, about what's happened, and what do you think it means?
I saw the Bidens about a week ago Monday, but I haven't spoken to them since then. But the idea that the whole First Lady's office and the Office of Leg Affairs has been destroyed. I was in and out of the White House fairly regularly over the last dozen years, and know that part of the White House fairly well. And it's stunning that the president's just bulldozing it so he can build a mini Mar-a-Lago, golden marble ballroom paid for by business interests that have regulatory concerns in front of the White House. It's a pretty galling action for the president to take, to just bulldoze the whole East Wing, when he told the public he wasn't going to do that. But frankly, what I suspect the average American is more upset about is that he's finding the time and the money to bail out the economy of Argentina with $40 billion, and helping Argentinian cattle ranchers sell their beef into the United States and farmers sell their soybeans to China at a time when Americans are facing a doubling of their health care costs, and he can't be bothered to negotiate with members of Congress to try and avoid people's health care costs going up. Trump ran on, I will lower your costs and make America healthy again. Instead, he's raising our costs, making Americans less healthy, and spending his time on things like buying private jets for the DHS secretary and building a new gold ballroom for his White House.
All right, Senator Chris Coons, thank you very much for coming by. Really great to have you here in person, Marina. I appreciate it.